When I was about, I don't know, 5 or 6, we had a fire drill at home. And I was so excited. I knew exactly what I needed to do. As soon as I heard the fire alarm, I was to go out to our meeting place in the front yard by the big tree. Super easy, right? My parents had us all go to bed to pretend like we were sleeping and wait for the fire alarm to go off. My bedroom was on the ground floor, and there were 2 exits and a window. I think the window was over here, so we'll put a little window in over there. But there were 2 exits and a window. One of them went out into the dining room, which actually there was another door back here that you could go out to the backyard, or you could go through this way to the front room. And the other exit went into my parents' bedroom, which then had an exit that led into the living room. So when the fire alarm went off, I popped up out of bed and I headed straight for the door to my parents' room. And that is when things went horribly wrong. Hi, I'm Amy on Olali Live. I figured I should introduce myself. I think that introductions are appropriate before I detail a huge failure in my life, even if I was only 5. I am so glad that you're here. You are in the right place. This is a safe place. It's a place where you can fail and it's okay, as long as you get up and try again. The gloating after you've conquered the situation is entirely optional. My parents kind of threw a kink into things. They had this idea that if one of the doorways was blocked with chairs, then that meant that there's fire in that doorway and you couldn't go through and you had to find a different way out. And I went towards the door into my parents' room. The door from my room to my parents' room was blocked by pretend fire chairs. And that means I needed to use a different way out. The other exit from my bedroom was really just a few steps away. But when I saw the fire chairs there, I panicked and I tried to crawl through them. It actually wasn't easy to crawl through the fire chairs. My parents had done a pretty good job building up the chairs and to block the doorway. And about halfway through, I got stuck. And then pretty soon, my mom told me that I was not allowed to crawl through the fire chairs because remember, they're fire, and that I had to go back and find a different way out. I could not get myself turned around. In my panic, I was unable to get myself back out of the chairs, and I was not allowed to go forward. So I just basically sat there and started to cry. To make matters worse, my dad accidentally set something on fire, I think the curtains, while he was trying to set the fire alarm off. Fire alarms are much safer nowadays. You can just push a button to test it. Knowing how to react in a bad situation can save your life. This is especially true for house fires. Nobody wants to think about their house catching fire, but it happens more often than I'd like to admit. Role-playing how you will respond in a stressful situation is super helpful. When our brains are stressed, we don't think clearly, and something that normally would have been so obvious is suddenly an insurmountable decision, and you either freeze or you do the wrong thing. Something that we've done, even acting, is more likely to click in our brains because our bodies have gone through those motions before. You can learn something in a classroom, but that doesn't mean that you'll understand it on the same level as if you've had the ability to touch and feel and taste and smell it. Our brains store things that we've experienced, so hands-on learning, in a different way than things we've just been told about. In a stressful situation, your brain is more likely to recall an answer that was practiced, so like emotion, than a nugget of knowledge. When I was 5, my parents had drawn out a rough floor plan. We had talked about what we needed to do, and I understood. Like, I knew that our meeting place was in the front yard in the, by the great big tree. But during the fire drill, things didn't go exactly like I thought they would in my head, like I had imagined them going. They didn't go that way, and I panicked. So not only was I stuck in a pile of fire chairs, but I could hear my parents, like the urgency in their voices, and I could smell smoke. I knew there was a problem. I pretty much curled up into a ball and screamed until somebody came and rescued me. Now, in honor of my complete failure, you are all required to go and like this video before we continue. I knew what I was supposed to do. My 5-year-old self felt so confident. I was not going to have a problem. It should have been easy, but in the heat of the moment, my brain short-circuited. Heat of the moment, see what I did there? That little play on words was in honor of my dad. To have a fire drill at home, you can either draw out a little floor plan, kind of like my parents did, or you can just simply walk around the house, and as you walk from room to room, talk about the exits that are in that room. And of course, have everyone walk to the meeting place. Thankfully, that was not the last fire drill that we had that day. As a matter of fact, we had one shortly thereafter. And I knew that I should not run through the door to the door in my parents' room, and that I should go directly out of the door into the dining room. Except when I opened the door to the dining room, it was blocked with fire chairs. However, this time, I walked calmly over and went through the now clear doorway into my parents' room, feeling only slightly miffed that that wasn't blocked too, so that I would have a reason to crawl out the window. I was so proud of myself, and was the first person to make it to the big tree in the front yard, which was our meeting area. And I made sure to point that out to my brothers, to each one of them, as they showed up. Now, the reason that I tell this story is twofold. Number one, you should have practice fire drills with your kids. And if they fail miserably, then try again and again until they are gloating in their victory. Two, just because you know what to do and you feel confident in it does not mean that things will work out well. Sometimes we hit a tiny kink in the works and it jams up everything, something terrible, and the whole thing melts into a horrible mess. That does not mean that we are not capable of handling the situation. It simply means that you need more practice handling the situation. When you have autism, or social anxiety, or sometimes for no reason at all, other than the stars aligned correctly, or maybe they didn't align correctly, you will find yourself in a situation that should have been easy, but somehow you failed miserably. This is a normal part of life. Not a fun part of life, but a normal part. For some people, it is entirely too normal, which is really hard. However, failure, even miserable failure, is not a reason or excuse to quit. Figure out what went wrong, decide a better way to handle the situation, and try again until you succeed. Believe it or not, that kind of growth through hard trial leads to some of the most rewarding experiences of our lives. And you are entirely entitled to gloat when you finally succeed. Keep trying, keep pushing forward, keep picking yourself up. I believe in you. One way to help you deal with new and therefore stressful situations is social stories. They are a step-by-step guide on what will happen during a specific situation that might be stressful for you, but everyone else seems to just breeze right through. For example, you can watch and hear all the steps needed to get the oil changed on your car, or go pick up a prescription, or what to do when you go to a concert. To watch more social stories, click on the playlist in the corner. I love you, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Lolly Life.